call to order the February 8th meeting of the Cary Town Council. And at this time, I'll recognize Councilmember Bonsall for our ceremonial opening.
Thank you, Mayor. Please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance today.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We're at item 3, which is the adoption of the agenda. There's been a request to change the agenda. Staff has requested that amendment to Cary-Raleigh interlocal agreement for interconnections be pulled from the consent agenda. We expect this item to come forward in our March meeting. This pertains to a timing situation with Raleigh that staff is coordinating. So is there a motion to adopt the amended agenda?
Yes, so moved as amended.
Second.
A motion and a second. Discussion. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. That takes us to recognitions, reports, and presentations. And at this time, I'll recognize Town Manager Sean Stiegel for his report.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to reflect on what a tremendous success our downtown Christmas decorations were this year. Universally positive reception by our citizens, our downtown businesses. And I've learned in 25 years plus in this business that there's only a couple things everyone's for. Trees, getting the streets repaired in front of their house unless it causes a traffic problem, and holiday/Christmas decorations. So becoming recognized outside of North Carolina now as a holiday destination is also really great for economic development. Not counting what was inside the park, 255 ornaments this year, 53 in 2002. Included were dozens more private properties, and a heartfelt thank you to the residents and businesses in the Business Improvement District who volunteered to host this year. We have more than 50 staff from nearly every department that were involved in making it happen. And many of them are here tonight. I just ask for them to stand and be recognized, the people that actually spent the time putting up and making sure all those decorations. Hey. So as you might imagine, it's a lot of work, and we're just very, very, very grateful for all of your efforts. And that concludes my report.
Great report, and thanks again for all that you do. And from what I've heard, it's going to double for next year, so get a lot of rest. All right, we now move to Public Speaks Out. We've included instructions for speaking at this forum, online and printed agendas. There were 3 opportunities to participate in Public Speaks Out through written comments, calling in, or attending here in person tonight. If you are here in person that would like to speak, I'd ask that you take a seat in the rows to my right that are reserved for you to speak. Public Speaks Out speakers have 3 minutes each for their comments. Speakers may speak on any topic, town-related topic, as long as it's not a public hearing item. The 3-minute time limit will be enforced, not to be rude, but to be fair to all of our speakers. There's a timer on the podium. It'll start off with a green light. When you have 30 seconds left, it will turn to a yellow light. When it flashes red, that means your time is expired, and that's the moment I will interrupt you. Again, not trying to be rude, but trying to be fair to all of our speakers. I thank everyone in the audience for understanding that this is a business meeting. Please do not applaud, make remarks from your seats, or anything else that distracts from this meeting. And if you're speaking here tonight, I would ask that you do not repeat what has already been said. That will allow more speakers to have more time to speak. So now is the time for the Public Speaks Out portion of our meeting, and I'll call on the town clerk to read any written comments and call on any registered speakers.
No written comments, and we had 5 registered speakers. The first one is Mary Kentz.
Ms. Pitts, I'll invite you forward.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Mary Kentz, and I'm a member of St. Paul's Episcopal Church in Cary. St. Paul's is a founding member of One Wake, with its 47 member institutions, 14 of them here in Cary. You remember us. We hosted the largest nonpartisan town council candidate assembly this fall with 600 folks attending, calling for support for our siblings at Chatham Estates. I'd like to invite all One Wake members and Chatham Estate residents here tonight to raise their signs so the council can see you. Please understand, we members of One Wake don't take our connection to one another lightly. We want our siblings to be recognized and valued here, and we're willing to continue working with you to make that happen. One Wake is acting in partnership with the Chatham Estates neighborhood to ensure fair treatment of residents in light of the pending sale of their property. We are made better by having these residents in our town, and we don't want them to leave. Their work matters to us. Their children belong in our schools. They are our future too. So here we are. We recently learned that the Town Council was presented with a draft proposal to create a new initiative, Stable Homes Cary, to support Cary residents displaced by development. This investment of $500,000 per year to Dorcas Ministries to provide case management is significant, as is the creation of a new fund of $500,000 to $800,000 to compensate residents affected by displacement. This investment is encouraging, especially since it comes with a new structure and program that could attract additional investment that would help make residents of Chatham Estates whole. We understand that this item is not up for a vote tonight, and that the council will likely make a decision on March 14th. We didn't want to wait. We are here tonight to tell the council that you have our support for this initiative and that you are on the right track. As you debate this proposal over the next month, we would ask that you consider investing at least the high range of what is being considered for displacement services, $800,000, at least this amount, if not more. Our research indicates it costs approximately $15,000 to move a mobile home, if the home is movable. Other variables can affect that price. There are approximately 130 mobile homes in Chatham Estates. The math amounts to nearly $2 million. One Wake will be back on March 14th for the vote, and we will encourage our members to reach out to you in the meantime to share their thoughts. But this is not my story. I would like to introduce Abigail Dawa and Maggie Regulus, Chatham Estate leaders, who will share more about their own experiences. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next speaker is Abigail Dawa.
Hello, I'm Abigail Dawa. So, I'm the mom of two beautiful little girls. They are twins. They are 5 years old. One is Lady, the other one is Danielle. They are bright, happy, and they love playing in our little backyard in Chatham Estate. We live in Chatham Estate, and we really, really, really like it here. We come from, we almost escaped homelessness, and we found ourselves in very difficult situations. So being here has been very stable, if I can say like that, for us. My kids attend Telamon Head Start Parkway, and they just learn how to make friends, and they love their teacher, and they ask me every day to go to school. It's crazy. I decided to go back to school to offer them a better life. So I'm attending Wake Community College, majoring in cloud computing. I like it. I'm very grateful to still have a house to go in every day, but I also feel very anxious not knowing what the future holds for me and my kids. I'm a single mom, so everything falls on my shoulders. I feel very scared about this prospective sale because I don't have any plans for when the park sells. It's hard to make any solid plan when you lack the financial means to sustain the plan. We recently heard about the initiative to create a relocation assistance program. Speaking on behalf of my neighbors, We feel like our voice have begun to be heard, and we encourage you to pass the proposal. We will need all the help possible when the time comes for us to move. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Maggie Riggles.
Hola, buenas noches a todos. Mi nombre es Maggie Regules. Yo soy residente de Chatham State y he vivido ahí por 10 años y 24 años en el área del Triángulo.
Good evening, my name is Maggie Regules. I am a resident of Chatham Estates and I have lived there for 10 years and 24 years total in the Triangle area.
Tengo 2 hijos, uno de ellos asiste en la escuela Cary High y el mayor trabaja en un restaurante local aquí en Cary.
I have 2 sons. One of them attends Cary High School and the oldest works at a local restaurant here in Cary.
Trabajo como promotora de salud en una organización sin fines de lucro que se enfoca en la comunidad latina.
And I currently work as a community health worker in a nonprofit organization that focuses in supporting the Latino community.
Durante años fui madre soltera y cuando mis hijos y yo nos mudamos a Chatham State, sentimos gran alegría de tener al fin un hogar, algo propio.
For many years, I was a single mother, and when my children and I moved to Chatham Estates, we were so happy to finally have a home and something to call our own.
A pesar de todos los desafíos de ser mamá soltera hasta el momento, he podido sacar adelante a mis hijos, dada la oportunidad de tener una renta que podía costear yo sola.
And despite all the challenges of being a single mom, so far I've been able to provide for my children, but that is because I've been given the opportunity to have a rent that I could afford on my own.
Desafortunadamente, como ya todos saben, casi ya un año atrás la propiedad fue puesta a la venta, poniendo a nuestras familias en riesgo de perder nuestros hogares y nuestra comunidad en peligro de desaparecer.
Unfortunately, as you all know, almost a year ago, the property was put up for sale, and this is putting our families at risk of losing our homes and our community at risk of disappearing.
Además de tener que desarraigar a nuestros hijos de sus escuelas, iglesias, trabajos, de nuestra comunidad,
Plus, in addition, now we have to uproot our children. We have to get them out of school, pull them away from the churches, from our jobs, and from our community.
esta situación ha causado gran preocupación, incertidumbre y gran estrés en nosotros al no saber a dónde iremos y cuál será nuestro futuro cuando la venta ocurra.
And this situation has caused us great concern because this uncertainty and stress, because we don't know where we're going to be going and what our future is going to be once the sale occurs.
Chatham Estates es uno de los pocos lugares de vivienda a bajo costo para familias de bajos recursos. Pagamos una renta de $400 por mes.
And Chatham Estates is one of the few affordable housing sites for low-income families. We pay a rent of about $400 a month.
Vemos el crecimiento del pueblo de Cary, nuevos desarrollos de viviendas lujosas y negocios, pero nosotros no podemos permitirnos pagar lugares así.
So we see the growth of the town of Cary, new luxury housing developments and businesses, but we can't afford to pay for places like this.
Nosotros también somos parte de la comunidad de Cary. Trabajamos, votamos, comemos, compramos, pagamos impuestos, somos miembros de iglesias locales y como tal contribuimos el éxito y el progreso del pueblo.
However, we too are part of the Cary community. We work, we vote, we eat, we shop, we pay taxes. We are members of local churches, and as such, we contribute to the success and the progress of the town.
Por eso hoy estamos aquí para pedirles que consideren la aprobación de esta iniciativa. Hogares Estables Cary.
And that is why we are here today to ask that you consider approving this initiative, Stable Homes for Cary.
Para muchos de nosotros es casi imposible reubicarnos sin el apoyo de ustedes.
Because truly, without your support, it would be almost impossible for many of us to be able to relocate.
Y tienen todo nuestro apoyo y agradecimiento. Muchas gracias.
So you have our full support and appreciation. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Our next registered speaker is Amy McMahon.
So my name is Amy McMahon. I'm a relatively new resident of Cary, 6.5 years ago, but the pandemic interrupted things. I would much rather be actively engaged in the efforts of One Cary in the community. But for the last 7.5 months, unfortunately, I have been faced with engaging in almost nonstop geese deterrent methods for literally the resident geese that are 2/3 every morning. Because unfortunately, a neighbor, I live in a charming non-HOA community right off the Maynard Loop, and really nice. I love the beautiful lakes. I'm a runner. I really like this community. Oh, I forgot the fenced area around my yard, my property. This is absolutely exhausting when a unwittingly, perhaps neighbor, Carolina Rescue, whatever, brought in some geese, harbored them, and then all of a sudden the flock sizes with the bird feeders. Every morning, the fly over, land on my yard, mosey up to hers with all the feeders. I think they had nested there in the spring. And imagine every morning you're trying to have your coffee, your spiritual time. I'm a social worker. That is what I'm passionate about. Yo quiero ayudar a ustedes y la comunidad mucho más than have to be dealing with this geese. And it is a real public health safety concern when you have feces every day, E. coli, salmonella, landing on your, we renovated our home. We've invested in our home the last 6.5 years to make it healthy, to live, and enjoy the community. And unfortunately, it has been derailed these last 7.5 months because every morning the geese fly. Oh, I have 1 minute. I would like you all to understand that trying to deter geese with the NC Wildlife Commission resource, with the USDA, with all the people I've communicated with over these months, including Sean Stiegel, thank you. I would like the ordinance to be enforced, the existing ones, for nuisance control. Harboring is real. Charlotte has used that word, actually. Dayton, Ohio, or a town outside of Dayton, has an ordinance. There are things that can be done to for the well-being of the geese, but also for the public safety. I have a school bus right near my house, right on the corner. The cars are swerving because of the geese on the road. They get chased around. And trust me, I am much more concerned, and I would like to engage in helping be an active part of our community. But I need your help. I can't do it alone. Everyone says the number one thing you need to stop is the feeding. If you have the feeding and it keeps going on, some neighbors are helping. We've gotten some of this. This is a water gun. Sorry, I don't. Anyway, thank you.
Yeah.
I need your help.
Thank you.
Our next registered speaker is Joan Lyons.
No worries. I think I got it all.
Good evening, council members. For those of you who I don't know, my name is Joan Lyons. I reside at 106 Tayport Court in Cary, North Carolina, and I am the advocacy co-chair for Oaks and Spokes. We are an advocacy organization that advocates for safer streets for those who bike, walk, and roll throughout the community. In my professional life, I am a transportation planner for a local design and engineering firm, and I'm a lecturer at UNC Chapel Hill. I come to you today in the wake of two pedestrian District B since December 29th, 2023. The death of Jocelyn Perez Hernandez, 6 at Walnut Street and Ryan Road, Amy Marie Delorette, 37 at North Harrison Avenue and Hillsborough Street, right up the street from here. I am sure that you would all agree with me, 2 deaths in a little over a month is far too many. Traffic fatalities are serious injuries, can be preventable. In response to these tragic fatalities, I encourage the town of Cary to prioritize developing a Vision Zero action plan, hire an individual who focuses on bicycle and pedestrian related concerns, and join the North Carolina Vision Zero network. Vision Zero plans are traffic safety plans that are focused on eliminating traffic deaths, serious injuries, while improving safe, sustainable, and equitable mobility. Setting that zero target death sets a strong message that deaths on our transportation network are unacceptable and preventable. cities and towns across the U.S. began adopting Vision Zero plans as early as 2014. All of Cary's neighboring municipalities, the town of Apex, the town of Chapel Hill, town of Durham, or city of Durham, the city of Raleigh, have adopted Vision Zero plans. There are lots of different statewide resources that I did send you via email, a copy of this letter, that I would highly encourage you to look into, including the North Carolina Vision Zero Leadership Institute, which is free to municipalities that are interested in doing this work. Applications for that are due on March 1st, so time is dwindling on that. But there are other safe streets for all Vision Zero action grants through the federal government to pursue funding if this is something that you're interested in. I really wanted to thank you again for taking the time to listen to me tonight, and I look forward to working with you on this. Have a wonderful rest of your evening.
Thank you.
No additional speakers.
Now's the time, excuse me, now's the time for citizens that would like to speak that have not registered to speak. And again, I'll remind you, if you want to speak, please sit in the seats to my right that are reserved, and I would invite the first speaker forward.
Good evening, Mayor and members of council. My name is Glenda Top with Glenda S. Top and Associates. I am here for the only discussion item on the agenda tonight, the temple parking. We have gone to the Planning and Zoning Board and they recommended approval. We comply with the Cary Community Plan and we ask that the council approve our request. I would also like to note that there are other members of the team here to answer questions and temple members who are here if you need any additional information. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Top. Next speaker for Public Speaks Out. Anyone else for Public Speaks Out?
Don't think so. Nope.
Nope. I couldn't tell. Seeing no one coming this way, I'll close Public Speaks Out. And we'll move to the consent agenda portion of our meeting, which is item 4. For the benefit of people watching our meeting on TV, I'm going to take a moment to review the consent agenda items. Please keep in mind that one vote approves all of these items. On the consent agenda, we have Annexation 23A14 Aviation Parkway, calling for a public hearing. Bid award for Paramount Pump Station Improvement Project. Resolution authorizing property acquisition for Optimus Farm Road Water Extension and Interconnection Project. And adoption of the 2024 work plans of the advisory boards and commissions. Would council members like any of these items pulled for a discussion? If not, I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
No, I'll move to approve the consent agenda.
There's a motion
I'll second that.
and a second. In discussion, I would just say, if you haven't spent a lot of time, please spend a lot of time looking at the 2024 work plans of the advisory boards. They spent a lot of time on those, and I read them twice. I'm a glutton for punishment. I like to read reports. But they're very good, and we're very appreciative of our advisory boards, and they're great contributors to the town, and we're so lucky to have them. So we have a motion and a second. All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. We have no public hearings this evening, so we'll move to our one and only discussion item, which is 23 REZ09 SV Temple Parking Rezoning. Principal Planner Aaron Puckett will present the item, and council may take action. Ms. Puckett.
Thank you. Would you like me to give it a moment while folks clear out, or would you like me to go ahead and get started?
We'll wait a couple of minutes.
Okay, that sounds great.
And thank you for coming this evening. Don't let it be your last visit.
Thank you.
This is good.
Yeah, yeah. Having the personal stories is
Amazing.
I recognize several
Smart.
people. Those are my neighbors.
I like the way they present.
yeah, that was good. That was really good.
Well, thank you, and good evening, Council. This is a request to rezone approximately 5.59 acres located at 9391 and 9405 Chapel Hill Road. This request came before you for a public hearing in October of last year, and tonight you may make a decision on the case. The subject site is located along the southwest side of Chapel Hill Road, approximately 0.3 miles west of its intersection with Northwest Maynard Road. The parcels are owned by the Sri Venkateswara Temple, and the temple site is just northwest of this assemblage. The historic Nancy Jones House is located immediately to the east of the site. It previously was located on the subject property and was relocated in 2021. For additional context, the Sri Venkateswara site began developing in the early 2000s. The main temple was completed in 2012. In 2019, Council approved a rezoning of the site in order to permit construction of a decorative monument as a gateway feature for the temple. In 2022, Council approved a rezoning to allow an additional assembly use and an increase in the square footage of buildings on the site. A subsequent development plan for a religious hall was administratively approved by staff. That development plan includes road improvements, including sidewalk along the temple site frontage. The site is currently zoned residential 40, and the applicant proposes to rezone the site to office and institutional conditional use. The applicants have offered a condition to limit use of the assemblage to parking for uses on the adjacent property at 9455 Chapel Hill Road, which is the current Sri Venkateswara Temple site. Since the public hearing and the Planning and Zoning Board meeting, the applicant has added a condition to dedicate right-of-way along the property frontage prior to approval of a development plan for the site. Note that this condition was recently added, so the staff report did not reflect this change. An analysis of this request against the Cary Community Plan found that policies in the work, shape, and move chapters apply most directly, and the details of that analysis were provided in your staff report. At their meeting in December, the Planning and Zoning Board found the request consistent with the Imagine Cary Community Plan by a vote of 8-1. The chair has provided the following comments. The majority of the board members voted in favor of the rezoning request. Parking is currently an issue, and additional parking would help with cars currently being parked in locations that are impacting surrounding neighborhoods and the adjacent historic home. The number of spaces requested would be below the threshold to trigger additional improvements. The temple feels this request will be sufficient to handle the current parking issues. Members agreed that this was a reasonable request at this time, which would improve parking. The concern from the vote against the rezoning was that the request for additional parking with the limited required improvements would create a negative visual impact for the site from Chapel Hill Road. The request did not offer any additional buffers and is less than a type A buffer in a normal residential case. Also, this request did not address the future development at the site and seemed to be a placeholder for now. Lastly, there was concern with lack of adequate buffers for the Nancy Jones house. There were additional conversations from the board that it would be helpful for the applicant to consider increasing plantings in the buffer, even though it is not required. And this concludes the chair's statement. Since the Planning and Zoning Board, the applicant has added one condition, as previously noted, committing to dedication of right-of-way. Staff finds the request to be consistent with the Imagine Cary Community Plan, and we recommend approval. Overall, the rezoning expands on an existing religious assembly use, and parking for the adjacent buildings appears to be a reasonable use transition. The condition to dedicate right-of-way provides some certainty with future improvement of the transportation network, as at a minimum, it would allow Cary to construct improvements, including sidewalk, along the site frontage, regardless of the future build-out of the site. This concludes my presentation, and I'm happy to answer your questions.
Thank you, Ms. Puckett. I just want to make sure I understood. We have a dedication from them on the right-of-way, and that allows us to continue to connect sidewalks if we feel that's a safety issue, if we don't want to wait because there's no timeline on when when they would be required to do road improvements. So I think that is significant, at least for me. I had a big concern about that. I'm sure that I understand that correctly. I know, Ms. Bush, you had concerns as well. So
You heard about that?
yes, I did.
Right. Do we know, and yes, I totally agree that that's important. I have a couple of questions, if you don't mind. Just
Please.
Do we know how many parking spaces there will be?
We do not. It's not a zoning condition, and because O&I uses or certain civic uses do not have a parking maximum like commercial uses do, they could provide as much parking on that site as they feel they need.
Okay, so can you walk us through how folks will get safely from the parking, and if there is a phased plan for parking from that location to the temple without sidewalks?
So from this location to the temple, the connection would be internal to the site. So there will be there's a parking lot already that continues to that southeastern perimeter of the existing temple site. The parking would be a continuation of that parking lot. So there would be safe egress from that parking they construct to the temple. And there are
the back.
Yes, through the back, correct. So not necessarily out on Chapel Hill Road. There are also certain ADA requirements that have to be met at time and development plan. So that parking is going to be reviewed regardless of how much or where it is on this site to make sure it meets all Cary requirements, including ADA accessibility and things of that nature, to be able to get to the
Another
temple.
question I have, this is right next to the Nancy Jones house where there's some parking availability there too. Will this allow for people to park? Will we be allowing for people to park at the Nancy Jones house and access it? And if so, there's no back egress there to get to that parking. There's only the sidewalk on the front. So what does that look like?
Right. So under the zoning, I don't believe we would allow off-site parking at the Nancy Jones house for this site. I think it would exceed those requirements for off-site parking in the ordinance. So there would not be an expectation that parking should be spilling over onto that site for this user.
Okay, and last question, I promise that I have. You mentioned when you were presenting that there's a required sidewalk, or a sidewalk that is required in front of the temple. When does that kick in? Because it's not there now. So when might that be in the timeline and phase plan?
So it was part of the required site improvements for the development of the new assembly hall on the existing temple site. I do not know the exact construction schedule of that building and when the road improvements would be complete. That's certainly information we can find out, but those road improvements are tied to that approved development plan. So if they are building the new building on site, they would also be doing the road improvements that were part of that development plan.
Okay, that's it for my questions. Thank you.
Questions on this end?
That was my question. She got it answered. Thank you.
Anyone else?
I just had a question about the overhead utility lines that are, I noticed that there's utility lines along the frontage, and the statement in the staff report is like, we don't anticipate that these will be required to be buried. Were they required to be buried for the apartment complex down the street?
I would have to look into that information and get it to you. I actually am not certain off the top of my head. Typically, they have to hit that 1,000 linear foot trigger, I believe, for Duke to consider them feasible to be buried.
Okay, all right, yeah, that's one problem I have. It's not unique to this site, but it's when we have fragments being built along a roadway that if they all happen together, these would be buried and you'd have a much better view shed. Your buffer that gets planted would be able to flourish without interruption, right? But we have these overhead lines that, because it's 250 feet shy, won't be buried. And it's an outstanding concern I have that we should be thinking about.
Could I add in order for the sidewalk project, the goal would be to go from Cary Parkway to Maynard. There's other adjacent property owners that we would need to get at least right away, if not maybe access to their entire parcel. And you would need to budget for that in this year's budget. So we're pretty close to having everything we need but the money. So we'll just have to take that final step. We would do, I would anticipate we would budget for preliminary design and then move forward. But as everyone can see, it's definitely a needed stretch.
Yeah,
sidewalk
improvements. I think it's really important, and I'm so honored and pleased that the temple also believes that this is important. As Joan Lyons mentioned, we have had, tragedies of people recently pedestrians who've lost their lives. And this area, even from the Temple to Cary Parkway, is all mud, all dirt road. It's all a dirt path. And it's also a dirt path, from the Nancy Jones house. But thankfully, we have some really nice sidewalks where Bainbridge went in. So I think it's really incumbent upon us to make it as safe as possible for everyone. And I also think it's important to do it from Cary Parkway, because over by Cary Parkway is where the Go Cary transit stop is. So if we want to encourage people to take public transit, then we can't leave them a dirt path to get from the bus stop to the Temple. I also think that as we start to figure out what we want to do in this area, we also need a crosswalk for the wonderful community that's across from the Temple. A lot of parishioners live in that community and cross the street, and that's also another, unfortunately, scary safety hazard. And I think we need to look at all of this holistically in a way that will allow us to have a safe way for people to get, whether they're coming from the bus, whether they're coming from the apartment complex, or coming from the neighborhood across the street, to worship and be part of the community in a safe way. So I look forward to hopefully talking about how we can get people there safely and fill these gaps.
Other questions or comments?
I'd just like to echo and commend the applicant for working with the town to get that sidewalk moved forward. As I know we're looking really, being really mindful of how we approach Chapel Hill Road, right? That entire section there. And I think this will, with the improvements, I think it'll feel like a continuation of that improvement. And so I think it's going to really be something everyone looks back and is really glad they did. I wanted to share that.
I would like to say something. Sure. So I don't have any questions, but I did drive through that area and during the nighttime. And I commend the leadership of the Temple to take this step and create this property as an overflow parking. This is definitely going first step in the process, but a big step, because right now, from a safety standpoint, from what I understand, people who visit the Temple, they have to park their car sometimes in Food Lion parking lot, and they have to walk half a mile without any street lights, and there's a huge risk of getting hit by the car. So I think having this overflow parking lot is a good step forward, and definitely with the noted improvements. But thank you for working with the town staff on the right-of-way. That was very important as well.
Other questions or comments? If not, I would entertain a motion.
Okay, I can read it. I move that the town council adopt the following statement regarding rezoning 23 REZ09. The Town Council of the Town of Cary hereby states, Section 1, rezoning 23 REZ09 is consistent with the comprehensive plan because, as described in the staff report, it furthers policies from the work and shape chapters. Examples include Work Policy 1, grow a sustainable and diversifying workforce, and Shape Policy 6, provide appropriate transitions between land uses. Section 2, the Town Council considers the adoption of rezoning 23 REZ09 to be reasonable and in the public interest based on the information presented at the public hearing and by the applicant. The recommendations and the detailed information developed by staff and our Planning and Zoning Board contained in the staff report, and the considerations of Section 3.4.1E of the Town of Cary Land Development Ordinance, because, among other reasons, it enables development of parking for existing assembly uses in the traditional neighborhood future growth framework category. There's more.
It's one of the longest motions I've ever heard.
It really is. Adopt rezoning ordinance 23 REZ09. And that's it. Woo!
Wow.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Second. Discussion. All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Ms. Puckett.
Thank you.
And thanks, everyone, for working with us. That concludes our agenda, so I declare the meeting adjourned.